last thing about the statute of limitations, which is Mr. Cosby has it within his own power. He could decide that he will agree not to assert the defense of statute of limitations in civil cases. In some states, he could do that in a criminal case, but in any case, he could certainly do it in a civil case. But he has not accepted my challenge to do that. And if he did that, then what he could do is he could invite all these accusers to sue him, and let's let a judge and jury to decide. But he doesn't want to give up that defense. He doesn't have to, but he could, and then it could be decided in a court of law.
Okay. Well, before I say something to that, it's something else that's been puzzling me, and I know you're the one that can answer it. I know when I loaned my car out, and brother got in an accident with it, and the suit wasn't just against him; it was against me, because it was my car. Are you planning on bringing a suit against the owner of Playboy Mansion?
No.
Why not?
I mean, we don't. Let's put it this way: that is not something that you're planning at this time.
Well, isn't and if it happened at the Playboy Mansion, I mean, wouldn't he be?
Well, I mean, I don't know. There's various reasons on that, and I really can't discuss the reasons. But right now, Mr. Cosby, who's alleged to have done what Ms. Huss alleges, and of course that's going to be a matter of proof at trial, and we'll see. But that's what we're alleged. Right now, the case is only against Mr. Cosby.
Well, I know that most of the times when people own property and whatnot, whatever happens on my property, I know that I have to have insurance and stuff on. We have
and that is the case sometimes, but and you're absolutely right that sometimes that is the case, and it's good for everybody to have insurance on their property. Whether they are going to be liable for an intentional act that occurs on their property is a whole other issue.
Do you know if
that's assuming if we could prove there was an intentional act on the property?
Do you know if the Playboy Mansion is a tourist attraction or something that minors can go to?
Can minors? Can you hear your question?
Are minors allowed?
Can minors go to the Playboy Mansion?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this minor did. How it was that she got there is a matter of the evidence that will be presented at trial. And so we really don't want to discuss it at this time.
I see.
But I certainly Mr. Cosby, I think, will be aware of the situation.
Well, Ms. Allred, I know
aware of the situation, whether or not he is.
I know that you are an attorney that's very well practiced, and I know that you knew that Bill Cosby, none of his lawyers would let him set aside his what you call the statute of limitations.
Well, I mean, it's up to him. He's the client. He's the one. They're there to serve him. He certainly, it would not surprise me if they would advise him. I don't know what they advised, but it would surprise me if they advised him not to. But the point is, he could, and he hasn't. So any argument that, this can never be decided in a court of law is not true, because he could, at certain nations, have it decided in a court of law. That's within his power to do so.
Well, you know what they say about I've heard lawyers say this, that like a doctor says, a doctor who treats himself as a fool for a patient, and a lawyer that counsels himself as a fool for a client. So, I really doubt very seriously whether his lawyers would advise him to put aside his rights. Again,
I don't know what his advice was, but he did not accept my challenge to do it in a courtroom in a court of law, as to many of the other accusations. But I also offered him two other alternatives, which is if he didn't want scrutiny of the courtroom, we could do it behind closed doors with a retired judge that both sides could agree to who that person would be. And then in a private arbitration, which is a trial, but it's private, and then, all of the accusers could present their evidence, and then he could present his defenses, and then the judge could decide if there's sufficient proof to prove the allegations of the accusers, and if so, then he can decide, or she can decide, what to be awarded in the way of damages, if anything. He did not accept that challenge to do it behind closed doors in an arbitration setting either. I then offered one other alternative, which is behind closed doors in a confidential mediation, which is essentially an attempt to settle this matter with a neutral party as the mediator. Usually that's a retired judge also, but it doesn't have to be. But it's a neutral person that both sides would agree on, and see if it can be settled. So those are the only alternatives that exist from a civil point of view, but he hasn't accepted any of them. So we're litigating this one case on behalf of Judy Huss, and as to the other accusers, it appears that most of them are not going to be able to proceed. However, they can speak out in the court of public opinion, and that's what they're doing.
Well, with me being who I am, I have to, I've questioned Miss Christine Ruley, and I've questioned Miss Jewel Allison, and when I was questioning them, I asked Miss Ruley specifically,
Well, I don't represent them, so I really couldn't speak to what their situation is. I've heard their names, but I don't represent them.
She was one of the women on that front of that magazine, and I was trying to figure out why.
I would doubt that's the case, but what I'm saying is I can't speak to their individual allegations since I'm not aware of what their allegations are, what their proof is, and I'm only aware of clients that I represent as to what their specific allegations are, what evidence they have to support that, to support their allegations.
I just want you to know this ain't nothing personal against you. You doing the job that you were hired to do, and that's. But I was just, if they want to do this in the court of public opinion, for instance, I would welcome all of them to come on and let me question them in a forthright manner and just get some clarity on what they are saying that the man did, because it makes no sense to me that 30-something people were claiming that they were raped by a prominent man. I mean, Bill Cosby is a man known almost all over the world, and here this man was, if he was doing what they said he was doing, I'm trying to figure out why nobody got arrested. Nobody, they say they was afraid to report it, which makes no sense to me, because ain't no black man in America that powerful, and the president of the United States.
Well,
can't even hardly get.
I would respectfully disagree, because,
okay,
of course, Mr. Cosby, at the time that these allegations that they're alleging, the incidents that they're alleging occurred, was the most famous, probably well-respected, high-profile, prominent man, African-American man in America, and they, for the most part, were not actresses, were not models, some were, but just typical people, and they thought, a lot of them, that either they wouldn't be believed or that they would be attacked if they made these claims against Mr. Cosby. And that's what they believed. And so that was their perception. Right. So, I think it's just not, it's a little more complicated than perhaps what you're suggesting.
Well, I'm not.
Women are in fear of powerful people, rich, powerful, famous people are generally believed, and people say what you say, which is like, oh my gosh, why would somebody so famous do that? Well, a lot of people lead double lives, And a lot of people do things in their so-called private life that nobody knows about because often alleged victims, they're afraid. Whether they should be or not, they're afraid to do anything.
Well, I agree that those things could have been damaging if the people that alleged that he did these things had at least quietly, Dr. Cosby didn't have to know that they went and got a toxicology report. He didn't have to know that they did a rape kit. And the evidence to support what they were claiming would have been somewhere, and there would have been an arrest made.
Well, we don't know that there would have been an arrest made.
Well, if the DA had had some type of evidence other than the allegation, then if he would have had to arrest Dr. Cosby.
No, he wouldn't have had to. As a matter of fact, the DA did receive a police report from Andrea Constant, and and despite the fact that she had 13 Jane Does on her lawsuit, he didn't prosecute Mr. Cosby. Now comes the issue that you just raised, which is, well, rape kit, DNA. If a man is walking down a dark alley and somebody steals his wallet, nobody says that it's necessary to have DNA to prove that somebody stole his wallet. But, if something on a woman's body, which is frankly more valuable, and I'm sure you would agree with me, Sarah, than a wallet, somebody is alleged to have violated her body, why is there necessary to have a DNA test or more proof or rape kit than her word? His word that a wallet was stolen would be sufficient. Why is her word he was raped not sufficient? Why does there also have to be some kind of rape kit taken? That's a whole other issue for another time, but I pose that as a question.
Well, the reason for that is because the court system is designed that, and I've heard lawyers say this, that it would be better that 10 guilty people be turned free than one innocent person be wrongfully incarcerated.
Well, I agree with that.
And so when you, it is not the burden of proof understood from listening to, the burden of proof is not on a defendant to prove his innocence. If I accuse you.
Well, that's true. And so far I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, well, if I accuse you of something, then I should have something other than just my accusation. That's
you know what? Great if you do, but it's not necessary. I will say in a criminal case, it is a high burden of proof. You have to prove guilty on a reasonable doubt. Less evidence is necessary to prove a civil case.
Yes, I think they call it what? Preponderance of evidence.
Yes, and that's much less evidence and preponderance. And then if you want to get punitive damages to punish, then you need clear and convincing evidence. But still less than beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, even with
point is this: you and I are sitting here, and we're trying the case by talking about this. But what I'm saying is, why is Mr. Cosby not willing to have a judge and jury decide this? And he can put all the evidence on that he wants. We can put our evidence on. He can put his defenses on. And let's see, judge and jury decide. The accusers that I represent are all willing to do that.
I'm thinking.
The judge and jury decide, or just a judge. But Mr. Cosby's not willing to do that. Now, can you tell me why?
Yes, ma'am. I know. I'm pretty sure I can tell you why he's not doing that.
Why not?
Because historically, the court system in this country has turned a blind eye and a deaf ear when it came to justice for black people, especially black men.
I thought that. I agree with that to some extent.
So why should he trust them when they look at the media? Do you know?
Here's an answer.
I got one question.